Thank you all for listening so well. I know this is a panel, so I look forward to your questions here pretty soon. So this is the site that Sitka got up and running for resource conservation districts across the state, like you said, in a month. We've been making improvements to the site since then, so we're still working on it, and it's still new. So our strategy was there are 97 resource conservation districts in the state of California, obviously ranging from the forests and mountains on the Oregon border down to the deserts on the Mexican border. So we had a large geographic scale to take in mind, but also different types of projects we're all doing. So we're not doing, tortoise restoration in Mendocino County and so forth. So we really wanted to make sure we built something that was able to compile all of the really interesting work we're doing across the state, but could also be distinct enough that it would be useful for individual organizations. So my organization, for instance, is one part of one county. We have 12 staff working in 250,000 acres, and so our specific needs, we need to make sure we're being met through the system, but also that the system worked for San Diego County or for for Tahoe even. So this is a zoomed in version of the map. So we decided to work with a small group of 18 RCDs to get the site up and running, and we tried to get a diverse geography and diverse size too. So some RCDs, for instance, like in Tahoe, they have 200 employees, whereas my RCD has 6. So there's a big difference in scale. So we tried to get a bunch of different RCDs together to pull this together. So you can see, similar to the Clackamas and Tahoe site, there's dots of different colors signifying that projects are in transition, or into the design phase, are in the implementation phase, are being completed. So one of the things that was really important for RCDs, we're all grant funded, is that all of our projects in the design phase, it's basically a collection of all the projects we need funding for. So it was an ability for us to statewide be able to report that we need, say for instance, $2 million to do water conservation efforts on farms, or we need $10 million to do GHG reduction projects. We also added legislative boundaries. So for instance, I think this is our state representative districts, so that we could also collect information politically by political boundaries. So we didn't want information just for our own district. We might want to say for the whole, we have this based on watersheds, so maybe the whole Sacramento River watershed, or maybe for this particular legislator. So we really wanted to make sure that we could collect data in different ways and report it out in ways that were meaningful to the public. We adapted some of the terminology that TRPA used, so we track our work in performance measures, but we have different performance measures. So which is really good, we got to look at what other organizations were doing like TRPA and say, well, what made sense for us and what was different. Since Tahoe has they have a plan. They know what they want to improve as a group. The state of California has hundreds of thousands of plans in different areas, so we didn't have something to start with. So this is something that we had to really think collectively as a group of RCDs, but also our funders and our state agencies and our local watershed groups and our politicians to think about what is the information people want to hear and how do they want to hear it and what are the ways that they can understand that information. So we don't want to use kind of our environmental techie language that wouldn't be meaningful to the general public. So we had to think really hard about how do we capture the breadth of the work that we do in a condensed and meaningful way. One of the ones we'll just show you really quick is what we call fish passage barrier removal. So it's basically taking out barriers. Most of the time for us is for salmonid populations. And again, we're brand new. We just are 4 months into this site, so we don't have a ton of projects yet in the system, but for instance, you can see how the performance measures are rolled up really similar to what you saw earlier. So it'll show how much funding, how much we've done in each year. One of the things that was important for RCDs too is that we could actually go back and track projects in the past. So for instance, I get asked a lot of times, how much money did you spend in the Russian River watershed in the last 10 years? And my response is, well, I'm gonna have to hire an intern and I'll get back to you in a year, because we have really antiquated methods in small organizations of like paper final reports we send to the grantor. So we wanted to be able to go back in time to be able to track things so we can answer questions like this as well as tracking things moving forward. One of the other really things I really enjoyed in this process was the engaging stakeholders. Being such a large geographic area, brainstorming with other conservation districts across the state as well as our partners was a really enlightening experience, and also kind of a partner building and buy-in both for the work that we do that's important for us to get funding for, but also to buy into using this system. As I'm sure you can imagine, getting 97 different small organizations who vary from 0 staff to 200 staff to use the same system is going to be a challenge. So engaging those stakeholders was really interesting and important for us. And I think my kind of takeaway notes from the system is RCDs used to tote that we were like the best kept secret, which is nothing any government agency should be bragging about. So we really wanted to increase our transparency and our visibility, as well as track our projects across the state. One of the things the RCDs in California have really been called to do is to respond to doing greenhouse gas reduction projects and carbon sequestration in natural landscapes and in agricultural landscapes. But we need to have a really efficient, effective, and clear way of calculating our benefits. And so the drive to finally get something like this going for the RCDs was really that. And so we needed to be able to track similar projects across the state at many different scales. And also just to help us facilitate our storytelling and our connection to the community, and also our partnerships with one another. So I think those are my big kind of takeaways from this project. I'm going to turn it back over to Matt.